All right, folks, get ready, buckle up. I hope you don't have anything going on because this is going to be a doozy. You asked for it, and so I have the Rams cornerback preview for this offseason. It's not going to be predominantly draft. It's going to be predominantly free agency. We have plenty of draft stuff to get to, so don't worry about that. But we will name some names to keep an eye on. I appreciate you guys watching this video. Before I get into it, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Check out myself on all social media at Bogan. And in addition to that, check out today's sponsor, Sleeper. Be sure to get a 100% bonus match up to $100 using my code JKB. That's, again, a 100% bonus match up to $100 using my code JKB. Link is in the description below, and you'll get a $20 free entry. So be sure to check that out. All right, folks, the Rams cornerbacks. Well, let's just talk let's take it from the top, okay? The Rams cornerback philosophy since the departure of Jalen Ramsey has been rooted in bend, don't break, which beforehand, it was then too, but now the Rams have prioritized versatility and safety-driven coverage over the standard shutdown cornerback model that we've seen in the past, paying top cornerbacks. Shula's scheme emphasizes the use of high-volume dime packages and lighter boxes to limit explosives, and that did work last year, to be fair, for the most part. They have curbed the need for an elite man-to-man coverage cornerback. The Rams cornerbacks haven't been asked to do a Jalen Ramsey, erase the best wide receiver on the team from the equation, but rather wear multiple hats, have the mental processing to play off ball, and have that quick downhill trigger. Click and close in the run game, and they play off the successes of the safeties and the defensive front. Now, I will also say this, and I'm just going to throw this out there. Ahkello Witherspoon, to be fair, was asked to play the boundary similar to Jalen Ramsey multiple occasions from 2023 to now. And so I wanted to make that very clear. It's one of those things that doesn't really get talked about, but when you see him kind of left on an island, there's no safety. That's basically them trusting Ahkello to take one side of the field, and now it gives them more opportunities where I don't have that safety over the top. Well, now I can use that safety on the other side of the field and maybe even use him as a blitzer. So it definitely gave him some flexibility, but we'll get into it. We don't know for sure what the Rams have in store for the cornerbacks after this position was essentially blamed for keeping the Rams out of the Super Bowl, but based on Snead's response, the cornerback position group is something that they'll attack and mainly, have felt the Rams could change their outlook on cornerbacks. I'm not so sure that the case, they will change, the outlook on the quarterbacks, but at any rate, let's dive into the biggest preview I've ever done for any position, maybe ever. One thing to note, the Rams run dime, as I mentioned before, which is a 6 defensive back package, typically consisting of 4 cornerbacks and 2 safeties, or 3 safeties and 3 cornerbacks. So I just want to make that clear. They run 34.6% of the time, meaning slot guys still have value. And the Rams, while they still need to figure out the cornerback position on the outside, dime is utilized to keep Quentin Lake on the field in the star position while having another defensive back, likely a corner, on it with him. So let's talk about, first off, the only starter, and it's a big question mark, is Emmanuel Forbes right now on the roster. Technically, Darius Williams is under contract, but he's going to get cut. It'll save him about $8 million in cap. He was benched in the NFC Championship game. Come on. We know how that's going. Futures contracts were dished out to Alex Johnson and Cam Lampkin, who are on the practice squad. The star role is Quentin Lake and Josh Wallace, as we know. Free agents include Ahkello Witherspoon, Cobie Durant, Roger McCreary, and Darion Kendrick. So I'm going to just cut to the chase here. Darius Williams will not be back with the Rams. Darion Kendrick probably won't be back with the Rams because he's not a great special teamer, and they didn't really even let him play on the defensive side. They even traded for somebody and played him over Darion Kendrick. So be that as it may, as much as I like Kendrick, he's probably looking at either barely making the 53 if he's brought back or a practice squad spot. But the little bit of really good stuff he did in Seattle in that 1-2 start game sequence could get him potentially paid by another team. So let's talk about it. The cornerbacks. We're going to get into the Rams free agents and whether or not I think they should bring them back at the end. But let's talk about what you're here to hear, okay? The cornerbacks. And let's start off with, by far, the number one cornerback on the market, Jamel Dean, okay? I've been talking about him for a while. Free agency, market value, $14 million average annual per over the cap. Spotrac has him at 12.5. PFF has him at 18.3. He's going to be 30 years old in October. He's 6'2", 208 with 31 and 3/4 inch arms, which is 63 percentile, all time. In 2025, he led all of the NFL in targeted passer rating with a 41.3. Only 1 touchdown was given up and 3 interceptions and 4 penalties. In his career, he has an 80.9 targeted rating. He's given up less than 3 touchdowns per season. He has he has a little bit more than a pick and a half per season, 6 pass breakups, 3.8 penalties, and a 57.1 reception percentage. His PFF 2025 grade he was 5th overall cornerback. He was 18th in 2024 and 26th in 2023. And his EPA is among the elite, okay? This past year, he had a negative 28.3 EPA. That is considered elite. Lockdown, all pro, whatever, anything negative 20 or above EPA is considered elite. So you're talking about the creme de la creme here. 2.2 average separation yards in coverage, which is top tier sticky coverage, and a 0.67 coverage yards per snap rate, which is very high end for a cornerback. It's very good. It's almost elite. So what are the pros that you're getting with Jamel Dean? He's scheme versatile. He comes from the Todd Bowles complex system. It's really going to make it easier on him, I think, to be able to move over to the Chris Shula thing here. He's got elite size. The speed combination as well. He could be a high-level eraser that the Rams were missing in the playoffs. Like, take away a JSN. Take away a Rome Odunze, whatever you want. Like, he could take those guys out of the equation. He's consistent. It's evident. Dean has always been a really good player, not just coverage, but he excels in zone coverage, which the Rams run a ton of, and he excels as a tackler. He's probably the best tackling corner in the league, and he's an elite zone corner. So what are the concerns? Well, the injuries, they're definitely there. He's missed 12 games over the last 3 seasons, 21 total since his rookie year in 2019, and his age, definitely the biggest deterrent for people being almost 30. Cornerbacks start to go downhill when they hit that 30. But he's going to be 30 this year, and the Rams have had, they've seen aging veteran corners go through the injury motions. Ahkello finally had that catch up with him, although that was a little freak. But then Darius Williams, he had issues all year. He's obviously older. But the question is also, is Jamel Dean enough of a ball hawk for the Rams to go after? And averaging only 1.57 interceptions per year, I don't know if that's the case. Here's my verdict. I'm signing Dean anyway. Personally, I think he's too good to pass up on. I understand why some, especially if the contract gets high enough in price, might not be on this. But this is your all-in move. Jamel is clearly the cream of the crop available. He's the only cornerback one that I saw when doing countless hours of research. To me, it's a no-brainer. Jamel Dean, it might not, for people that don't and aren't aware of how good he is, I've wanted him for a while now. Jamel Dean is the real deal. And he would be a perfect fit in this defense from just multiple different angles. So this would probably be a 3-year deal. My guess is it goes potentially up to $18 million a year. Obviously, that's not $18 million on each year of your salary cap. When you're all in, you can obviously utilize, you can use this anytime, but being all in, you can move money. I expect them to do that. Look out for Jamel Dean. I really think he is a target for the Rams. And to be honest with you, he's the only one that really makes a ton of sense to just say, this is our CB1. All right, next up, we have Trent McDuffie, a trade candidate. I wanted to get it out of the way now. He's going to be a free agent in 2027. The Chiefs have been rumored to be searching for a deal with him. I don't know how much I buy that, but I also do buy it at the same time. A little weird. But look, he's going to be 26 years old later on this year. He's 5'11", $193. He's got 5 percentile arm length. I got to be honest with you. I see why people like him. I do. He reminds me of Honey Badger, the safety. But his average separation ranked below average. His EPA plus 3.7 this past year was below average. And his coverage yards per snap was about league average. I see the pros. I see plenty of big game experience, playing in 3 Super Bowls, winning 2. I see 93 career defensive stops. He's shown and he's proven to be a sound tackler. 34 pressures, including 19 in one season with 6 sacks. A Swiss Army knife. I see the ball skills to force 25 pass breakups in 4 seasons. Very high IQ football player that has shown big-time pre-snap ability. He's great in run support, highly graded by PFF. I think he could step in and give Chris Shula another defensive weapon. He's a former All-Pro in 2023. And whatever the Rams had envisioned for Roger McCreary when they made the trade, well, McDuffie would be a premium version of Roger McCreary. That said, there are cons here, and it's why I would not make this trade. He's overrated in coverage. He's allowed over a 90 targeted passer rating in every season in the league, over a 60 reception percentage. He's also regressed since the All-Pro season in 2023. It doesn't appear he can play on the outside, at least not anymore. It's more likely he's going to have to be a slot corner. And the 5% arm length is a big reason, I think. 5 percentile arm length, under 30 inches. You know, it's going to cost the Rams a pretty penny as well. Maybe you have to trade a Byron Young. Maybe you have to trade a first-round pick. Maybe you have to give up multiple picks. I don't believe McDuffie solves their needs on the outside, and that is what I would give up draft capital for. He's a bit of an injury risk as well, with the hamstring issues in the past and now a knee injury plaguing him. And he's expected to garner a massive extension in 2027. So you wouldn't just be giving up premium capital, but you'd also have to pay this guy about $30+ million a year. I think the Chiefs are throwing his name around in talks because they might know something we don't. And that should tell you something. So I like him. I understand. If he was a free agent, I wouldn't be against it. But as far as the trade, I'm out. I'm absolutely against trading draft capital for Trent McDuffie. I have no doubt he's a talented player, but who would make the Rams better and who would do it in a way that didn't cost them a ton? McDuffie's going to cost them a ton. Think about it like this. Would you rather have Mansour Delane, who many of you put in the comment section that you love, on a 4-year deal with a 5th-year option who could play on the outside, or trade him away for Trent McDuffie, who isn't as good on the outside, is slowly regressing from his All-Pro form? To me, that's how I choose to look at it. If the Rams get Trent, there is no doubt they have a plan worth giving a shot, but I personally would be disappointed if they traded the pick for him when I don't think he's elite at this moment. I would personally rather pay his teammate who had a better year. He would obviously work well in the Rams dime package, but the Rams have other holes to fill. So we'll get to Jaylen Watson in a little bit. I like Watson more. I'm out on McDuffie as far as trade. Montaric Brown. This is my other guy with Jamel Dean. I love Montaric Brown, and you guys, the OGs that have been following me for a while, know that I was a big fan of this Arkansas Razorback. 11.9 average annual value per OTC. Spotrac has him at 9.2. PFF has him at 4.5. No idea what PFF is seeing there. 27 years old in August. He's 6'1", $194 with 42 percentile arm length. He had a 73.3 targeted passer rating, gave up 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 3 penalties in his first year being kind of the head honcho, right? He hasn't had the best career, but he also hasn't been really given a chance to really emerge. And so when you look this year, when he finally got that opportunity and they traded away Tyson Campbell, you saw it. You know, a negative 11.4 EPA, which is a high-end starter, 2.6 average separation, which is above average, and his 0.83 coverage yards per snap is a high-end starter. Montaric Brown is that guy in this free agency group that I don't know if he's going to get paid a ton, and he might get paid completely out of left field by some team that just gives him $20 million a year. but I think he's going to be worth the money that he gets. He's got elite zone coverage efficiency. He allowed the second lowest targeted passer rating in zone coverage behind only Quinyon Mitchell, who I vote as the number one corner this past year. He's a perfect scheme fit. Best numbers when I've gone and I've watched him, and I mean, the tape shows this, but also the stats show it. His best numbers are when he's in zone coverage. Okay. He already played in a similar scheme to Shula. And I'm not saying Anthony Campanile runs the exact same defense, but it's similar. I think he could thrive here. He's an ascending talent, a former 2022 seventh round pick that has worked his ass off to get to this point and has really started to rise up the ranks. He was a draft crush of mine, and he's improved every single year. And really, I think this was his best chance to show it, and he really did this past season. He's still young. He still can help now and the future and still improve. He's a really quality tackler, 43 stops in the last 2 years defensively. Very disciplined, only 3 penalties this past year. And after allowing touchdowns in 3 straight games when he first took over, he settled down and didn't allow a touchdown the rest of the season and only allowed 9 receptions for 64 yards in the last 6 games of the year, including the playoffs. He didn't even allow 90 yards after the catch, and 38 of that came in week 9. There's a chance you could get Brown as a low cost, high value because he's very well, while I know him and a lot of people do know him, I could see him getting lost in the shuffle because of bigger names that have done more or have been on better teams. But whoever signs him is going to get him and realize what he can become. Travis Hunter was just announced to be switching to cornerback full-time, which I think makes Montaric Brown a little expendable for the Jaguars and makes it more likely that he is going to be available. But what are his cons? Well, he doesn't have elite recovery speed or the desired elite length on the outside. He's very limited in terms of that CB1, right? I don't know if I would necessarily play him at CB1. If this is the only move the Rams did, unless they went out and got Delane, I'd be a little concerned. There's definitely risk, and it could be great value, but even, the smaller cost, could turn out to be a bust because he's got limited experience, and compared to some others in this class, they've started multiple seasons and they've played in big games. The lack of interception production could also give the Rams pause. But my verdict is I want him. If you're looking for a guy that fits Shula's defense like a glove, it's Jamel Dean. If you're looking for the next guy, it's Montaric Brown. The former Razorback just feels like he's uncovering his potential finally. It could be about to break out onto the scene moving forward. Should the Rams sign him as the CB1 and call it a day? I don't know if it would work well, to be honest with you. I'd love to have him. I don't know if he's a CB1, but pairing him with a true CB1 in Jamel Dean would be lights out. His zone ability, discipline, tackling ability, and consistent improvement would have him as the perfect CB2 for this Rams defense this offseason. Next up, we have Jaylen Watson, 28 years of age in September. He has a 15.1 million per year value over at OTC. Spotrac has him at a 12.5, and PFF has him at a 15 million. He's 6'2", a $197 with 78 percentile arm length. This is somebody that had a 71.6 target passer rating, no touchdowns were allowed, 2 interceptions, and 5 penalties. His career, he's allowed an 89.3 target passer rating, 2.75 touchdowns per season, 1.25 interceptions per season, a 4.5 pass breakups per season, 3.5 penalties, and a 60.2 reception percentage. When I look at this player, I see somebody that, the EPA doesn't go crazy, negative 5.2 EPA, which is league average, but the separation, he's only allowing 2.4 yards of average separation, which is above average. His coverage yards per snap wasn't great. It's still league average, but this is a guy that has elite length and physicality, which is something the Rams are lacking at cornerback. He's getting better each year and has only given up 1 touchdown the last 2 seasons after giving up 10 in his first 2. His experience really shows, and he's played in some huge games, including multiple Super Bowls, and his last 7 playoff games that I uncovered, he's given up 11 catches for 152 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. That sounds like a really career day in one game. but giving up over 7 games is impressive. Basically, until this year, Jaylen Watson only knew of a league where he would start in the Super Bowl, so he's ready for any moment. He's a very effective blitzer when used in that instance, has 4 sacks, 9 pressures, and 38 pass rush attempts. He's a very sound tackler, has never had a double-digit missed tackle percentage ever. His best season, which is really something that I look at, came in a year where Trent McDuffie struggled mightily and the Chiefs struggled as a whole. I think that's a good sign that he could work out anywhere. He's tough as hell. He came back from a fractured fibula and tibia to start in the playoffs. He's definitely figured to be a scheme fit based on the body work, his size, his athleticism, not to mention his desire to actually tackle, and he can work in zone. And his skill set probably fits Shula's defense more than Spag's defense, as funny as that sounds. However, there are cons. The injuries are a tad concerning. He missed 15 games in 4 seasons, including a groin injury this past year, fractured fibula and tibia in 2024, and a torn labrum, which he played through in 2023. He doesn't have a ton of ball production either. Up until this year, Watson had 2 straight seasons of no interceptions. He doesn't have great recovery speed, so he can struggle and has those shift-eater receivers in the league giving him some fits. He's going to cost a lot. Anytime you try to find a 3 Super Bowl starting cornerback, okay? He started in 3 Super Bowls at cornerback. Everyone saw him on the grandest stage 3 times. And he's coming off his best season. You're going to have to fork up money. Watson's also young, so it's going to cost maybe upwards $20 million per year, depending. And with the rumors of Trent McDuffie being traded by the Chiefs, they could choose to move him and extend Watson. So that's something to keep in mind as far as availability. When it comes to verdict, sign me up. I like Watson a lot. He's not perfect. I don't think, the lack of ball production should matter as much as maybe I think it does, but it does bother me. What stands out to me, though, is the way he played in his first failed season of not making the playoffs. All this dude knew was starting in the playoffs. All this dude knew was getting in the Super Bowl. He never wavered in his play, even though they were out of the race. Watson tackles well. He's got a good body for the position. I wouldn't mind signing him as a number 1 corner. I could see the Rams doing that. Ideally, though, you want him as a number 2, but I really like Watson and how he translates to this defense. And furthermore, starting the way he did in the Super Bowls matters to me. So moving on, we have Tariq Woolen. A lot of people wonder, does he make any sense for the Rams? So forth. Woolen has an 11.8 market value over the cap, 8.2 at Spotrac, and 15 with PFF. He's going to be 27 years old in May. He's a crazy athlete at 6'4", 205, running a 4.3. And oh, by the way, his arm length is absolutely downright insane at a 33 and 5/8 clip. That's 97th percentile. Okay, 2025, he gave up a 75.1 target pass rating, 3 touchdowns, and he had an interception, but he had 11 penalties. His career for, is a regular season for him, 82.9 targeted rating, 5 touchdowns per season, 3 interceptions, 9.5 pass breakups, 8.75 penalties, and a 57.2 reception percentage. He had a league average EPA this year. He had top-tier average separation, and he had high-end coverage yards per snap. The pros about him, he's long-limbed, he's an athletic freak. He's going to be able to match up against some of the better, bigger-bodied wide receivers in the league because of that. He's also young and can be a long-term addition as well as a short-term one. And there's a lot of consistency in his game, which really keeps the completions in check, and he's much improved in the run game. Now, I love the long-limbed aspect because I think he can really help in this zone coverage. Okay, I think he can really help in this Shula scheme. That said, there are some cons. He could be very, very pricey because of his size, his speed. He was part of a defense that just won the Super Bowl and was well regarded. They even have a nickname now. His age, and he might not be worth the price tag, to be honest with you. He's a penalty magnet. It's hard to change the reputation when refs know how you play. They look for your number, and they know who to call it on. He averages nearly 9 penalties a season. We had people going up in arms about Darion Kendrick getting 11 in a season. Well, imagine if you were getting 9 per season from a guy that you paid a lot of money to. Questions about his ability to keep his emotions in check do remain for me. Like, the taunting call in the AFC Championship game that Seahawks fans are constantly bringing up, that's not like a good thing. Like, I can't have that, you know? So I don't know about that one. The interception totals, they're declining. This might be who he is. And I truly still question how he's going to fit the match zone of Shula. This is a player that needs to use his length in press man coverage. I can see the fit in a zone scheme. I can see him, reaching out and his long arms really impacting passing lanes. But when it gets to those match zone concepts and you're talking about this guy having to win without really pressing off the line of scrimmage, that could be an issue. I think the verdict for him is a 50-50. I see the vision. I also view Woolen as the ultimate boomer bust. I'm not sure I'm dying to bring him in. I wouldn't be furious if the Rams signed him to a deal. I don't think he's worth anything north of $10 million, though. I don't. I also have concerns what he would look like away from the Seahawks defense. Woolen notably struggled in the two biggest games of the year. He gave up 3 touchdowns and over 130 yards on 7 catches. Those are the things no one talks about because they won the Super Bowl. Who cares? But that matters now when you look at it. For the reason of that, I'm leaning towards no. I'd still say 50-50 with a lean towards no. And I see him as a CB2 or even a 3. I don't see him as a CB1. I think that would be a complete mistake. So for that reason, 50-50 for him. Let's talk about his teammate Josh Jobe. 7.8 average annual value at over the cap, 9.7 at Spotrac. Over 3 years, Spotrac says. He's a 28-year-old in April, so very soon. 5'11", a $190, 32 and 5/8 arms. That's an 87 percentile arm length. I like Jobe a lot. I came away liking Jobe a lot more than I expected to like Jobe. Okay, 70.1 targeted rating this past season, 3 touchdowns given up, only 1 interception, 2 penalties. For his career, 83.5 target passer rating. He's given up 1.75 touchdowns per season, 0.50 interceptions. So he doesn't get a lot of interceptions, 4.75 pass breakups, 5 penalties, and a 54.7 reception percentage. He's got league average EPA, although his EPA was higher than Woolen at a negative 8.1, whereas Woolen was in the 5s. He's got above average separation with 2.4, and his coverage yards per snap indicate that he had a high-end starter season. So, that said, he just continues to get better and ascend as a talent. He's playing more confident than ever. The numbers keep improving, and he looked the part of a starting corner in his first full season as a starter. And so I think that is a good sign. Now, take away the AFC title game. He went 8 games without giving up 40 yards receiving. Jobe fits the Rams scheme like a glove, in my opinion. He absolutely suffocated offenses in zone coverage, finishing second, only behind Derek Stingley in catch percentage allowed and top 10 in passer rating targeted. He's really improved and has turned into a good run support corner and has kept his missed tackle rate in the 10% or lower range the last 2 years. He's also flashed the ability to be used as a blitzer. He does a really nice job of separating the player from the football, and it shows with his 10 pass breakups. And Jobe's best game was likely the Super Bowl, where he put on an absolute clinic. I just absolutely really enjoyed watching him on film. Only gave up 3 catches on 8 targets for 11 yards. He allowed a 45.8 passer rating. Good sign for the Rams that he can play in a Super Bowl. Taking away Jobe from the board hurts Seattle as well. So that's another pro. This is a good player. He would give the Rams a true number 2 cornerback, in my opinion. I wouldn't sign him to be a number 1, but a number 2, definitely. The cons, he's not super tall and big, like I personally want an outside corner. He doesn't have the best rep. When he doesn't have the best rep, he panics, and he tends to grab downfield. That can, be an issue. It led to a career-high 10 penalties this year, albeit he didn't obtain one in the final 6 games of the year. That is worth noting. This was Jobe's first legit season, so was it a breakout or was it an anomaly? How much did playing around this Seattle defense do for that? With only 1 full year as a starter under his belt, you might have to play him a decent amount So there's some risk there. And then how much was his play, is it going to be worth it knowing that he played for this defense? His defense is legit. There's going to be teams flocking to get him. It's the allure of a Super Bowl defense. We've seen it year in, year out. I'll never forget the Ravens with everybody that was on that team when they won with Joe Flacco. They got poached. So is it going to be a high cost, and is that worth it? So my verdict is I'm all aboard the Jobe train. Okay? I'm all aboard the Jobe train. Is he perfect? Nope, he's not. What concerns me is the grabbiness. But I saw more of that in his game earlier in the season than later on. So I feel like he's kind of learned from that. He's been coached up well in Seattle. This is a player who he's in his prime. He's ready to help you win now. And he can be a member of your secondary for the next 3 to 4 years. He thrives in zone, which the Rams are zone heavy, and he shined on the game's biggest stage. Jobe, on top of that, really sticks to wide receivers in coverage, and he mirrors well. I think he's 100% a good option as the CB2 for the Rams, would make the Rams better. And I think the question is, what will that price look like? And will it be bumped up again for being on the Seahawks defense? We're going to find out. Next up, we have Eric Stokes. So Stokes is a player that's very interesting. Over the cap has him at $23.9 million average annual value. That is insane. I won't go that high. Spotrac has him at a 7.4 and then a 3-year deal. That seems way too low. So somewhere in the middle, I'd probably go like up to 13, I would say. He's going to be 27 years old in March, former first-round pick. Didn't work out with the Packers, had some injuries early on in his career. 6'1", $185 with 89 percentile inch arms. This is somebody that had a pretty damn good season. 85.3 targeted passer rating, 2 touchdowns allowed, no interceptions, which that will be a knock on him, and only 2 penalties. He's only given up 1.6 penalties per season. So it's definitely something that's interesting. When I look at Eric Stokes, I see somebody that the EPA wasn't great, but the average separation's above league average, and he has high-end starter coverage yards per snap. He's actually number 1 on this list for coverage yards per snap, and probably number 1 in the league, I would say, this past year. So what are the pros? What are the good things you're getting? Well, he just showed off elite coverage ability in 2025 on a horrible team. Nothing against Patrick Graham in the job he did, and he deserves the job that he got with the Steelers as defensive coordinator. I think he's actually pretty good, but Eric Stokes came out of nowhere to be really good. And this is the guy that I wanted the Rams to kick the tires on the offseason. They just didn't. He's an elite athlete, 4.31 40 time, mixed with some great size and arm length. In a market that may only have one legitimate CB1, in my opinion, in Jamel Dean, Stokes showed the upside to potentially be that guy left on an island if last year wasn't a fluke. His 0.65 yards per coverage snap allowed was tied for the lowest in the NFL among cornerbacks with at least 200 snaps, and he showed the ability to stay healthy after injuries robbed 22 games that he had across 2022 and 2023. Really good sign. He had 98% of the defensive snaps that were taken. As talented as Patrick Graham is, I don't believe Eric Stokes was playing around a stacked defense. Like, I know Max Crosby was on the defense, but still. This makes this season much more impressive. And how he stayed consistent despite he was playing for nothing was even more impressive. A 61 passer rating allowed in zone coverage is really good, and he's an excellent zone corner, or at least he was in 2025. Now, he projects to be even better, in my opinion, behind a Rams defensive front that will offer more pressure than the Raiders did. And just overall, a better team in general that won't be keeping you on the field the whole game. An offense that'll move the football. He's a pretty quality tackler, too, and he's going to limit yak gains as well. The cons, well, the injury risk is absolutely massive. It cost him dollars this offseason. In my opinion, I think it could. And if it doesn't, then you're paying Eric Stokes a lot, and you have to be aware that last year is the first legit year he's shown that he could be a first-round pick with the upside and the ability to stay healthy. is that somebody who is, is that who he is now? Like, is he going to stay healthy, or is he a ticking time bomb and last year was just kind of a fluke year? That's the question and ultimately the issue. He offers zero ball production, and you just have to accept that Stokes isn't one to pick the ball off. You might need somebody on the other side to play off him if you want picks. That could be a deal breaker. Raiders could still very well sign him. They're reportedly expected to enter a bidding war to keep him. So my verdict is I would absolutely go after Eric Stokes, but it's dependent on the price. I'm not paying over $20 million to a guy that I know has had injury concerns in the past and can't pick off the football. I want to have some turnover upside, and I don't get that with Stokes. But for the right price, I think the Rams should definitely consider it. So that's what I would say there. Next up, we have CorDale Flott from the Giants, $8.9 million average annual value for OTC, and Spotrac has him at a 9.5 AAV for 4 years. Look, 25 years old in August. He's only 24. He could not be getting into free agency at a better time. He's 6'1", $178. He's got arm length that isn't great, 10%. I don't love that. But he's got a 71.2 target pass rating this past season. Only gave up one touchdown. He had one interception, huge one on Jalen Hurts that secured the Giants' win, and he had 2 penalties this past year. So what do I make of Flott? Well, his EPA was that of a high-end starter. He had a negative 12.7 EPA. He had a 1.9 average separation. So that's 1.9 yards average separation on you. That's a top tier level. So he's sticky in coverage. Very sticky in coverage. He also had a 0.95 coverage yards per snap. So high-end starter is what we're talking about. Flott's growth has been absolutely massive. This is a guy that I wanted at the trade deadline. If you remember his name, that's probably where it's from. His original floor wasn't all that bad to begin with, but he's really improved. And it makes me wonder if there's even more. The target pass rating has always been below 100, but it dropped below 70s this year with a 52 catch percentage. He's one of the youngest cornerbacks available in free agency, so he can help you now and provide stability for years to come. He's versatile. He worked over 400 snaps in the slot back in 2023, but he could be moved around if need be and could work out in this Rams defense. He's only given up 2 touchdowns the last 2 years alone. He's incredibly disciplined, only 2 penalties this year and only 1 last year. He's got smothering coverage ability, like I previously mentioned with the 1.9 average separation yards, but a 32% tight window coverage play percentage. That's insane. Flott has all the makings of being a total shutdown number 1 corner that the Rams very much need, which is why I wanted them to acquire him at the deadline, as I previously mentioned. Playing on a bad team, really never got the best of Flott. So that's something I look for, when seeing how a player translates to a new environment. The Giants were better than what the record indicated. But the fact that he played as well as he did, being the circumstances, is impressive. What are the cons, though? Well, the arm length is going to make it hard for him to work on the outside. It hasn't given him issues yet, but it could. And as more tape gets on him, because the more he's in the NFL, the more his tendencies will stick out. Savvy veterans are going to take advantage of that. Also, he stands at 175 pounds. You'd like him to be bigger to be your number 1 corner. The lack of weight has caused him to miss 15% of his tackles over the last 3 years in a row. And he's really a weaker tackler. Like, he's going to try an ankle bite and dive instead of wrap. And he's not going to form tackle. I don't know. That obviously wouldn't fly if the Rams signed him. They would have to coach him up there, but that is something. So on top of being a liability in the run support area, he's also an injury concern. He's missed 15 games in his career and has never played a full season. So most games he's played the most has been 14, which he's done 3 straight years. He deals with soft tissue injuries for the most part, so nothing crazy, but that's not great. This could be another boomer bust risk, but, unlike my previous mention of Tariq Woolen when I said that, the sample size is much smaller with Flott than it is with Woolen, and so is the frame. So can he withstand a 17-game season? Is it a foregone conclusion he won't make it a full season? And for a team that figures to be going after the playoffs every single year and playing hopefully 20-plus games a year, this is not ideal. Can his body withstand that? I don't know if it can. The money could also be crazy because of his age, his breakout season, and I'm not sure he's going to be worth the price tag. Flott, while he has all the makings of being a number 1 corner, may not be that yet, but he might be priced as that. And I don't know if that's the best move for the Rams. So, I like him. I think he's another guy that I would absolutely sign as CB2. But to me, Flott is one of those talented corners who does one thing really well. I trust his ability in zone, but I also believe Shula does want to have his guys play some man, and Flott can thrive in that. His lack of length and overall body mass really does concern me, but the biggest thing is the fact that he's not always on the field, and he struggles in run support. When running a cover 3 soft shell type of defense, Shula is going to lean on, he's going to ask you to tackle. He wants to have that downhill trigger. If you have that, but you're biting at ankles, that's going to hurt. See, run support still matters, regardless of what people say about business decisions and whatnot. Run support matters for cornerbacks. I've watched Emmanuel Forbes showcase true form tackling, and he was like the Slim Reaper, they were calling him. I mean, it's not to say Flott can't add 10 pounds of muscle and play at 185 and be coached up to tackle, but if I have to do all that, then I don't see why I have to pay you a gaudy price tag either. I think 10 million is the highest I go, but I would definitely bring him in at 10 million to be my number 2 cornerback. There's a good chance, though, Flott is going to get paid out the wazoo, and I don't know if that makes sense for the Rams. So the verdict is it depends on the market. 10 million, sign me up. CB2, sign me up. CB1, no. 20 million, absolutely no. We'll see. Next up is Nahshon Wright, 10.3 million average annual value per OTC and 16.7 per Spotrac, and PFF has him as 7 million. 28 years old in September, 6'4", a $188 with 91 percentile inch arms. He had a 77.7 targeted passer rating, 5 touchdowns allowed, 5 interceptions, 8 penalties, and a 57 reception percentage. He had a league average EPA, above average separation, and coverage yards per snap was replacement level. This is a really, really interesting player. The pros are that he has elite takeaway production. 5 interceptions, pick 6, and you had 3 fumble recoveries in your first year as a starter. At 6'4", that size, Wright played all 19 games, which unlike Flott, like playing all 19 games is really impressive. The ball skills were evident, 7 pass breakups on the year, lots of tackling. He missed 11 tackles, but he made 85 as a cornerback. He's a willing tackler, and he had 27 defensive stops to boot. He's still young and could get better. This was only his first year starting after all, and he had over 1,000 coverage snaps this year. But the cons are that his market value could be absolutely insane. What I've started to understand is that when you have a tall cornerback who plays a lot of games, who's shown the ability to stay healthy, and oh, by the way, you also have a guy that has interceptions, tied for second in the league in interceptions, and has started for a playoff team that won their division, well, the price is going to be pretty high. And he's got a small sample size going from a special team contributor to being 1,000 snaps at outside corner. It's nuts. So teams are going to have that internal discussion. If he's breaking out, sure, is the sky's the limit. But was this an outlier performance? And if you guess wrong, you can end up whiffing on a potential all-pro down the line. There's also way too many coverage miscues. He gave up 5 touchdowns, and PFF said he gave up 8. That's high risk, high reward, boom or bust, coming off 1 year of starting. It's quite the risk. So with that said, I think when it comes to should you go out and should you get him, I think you definitely need to consider that. But it has to be dependent on the price. When I look at somebody like that, if the price tag's high, then I don't know if it's worth it. So, yeah, with stipulations, I'll say the only way it makes sense to sign Nahshon Wright is if you have a shutdown corner next to him that he can play off of. Wright's exciting. The length would fit Shula's defense, but he cannot be the number one cornerback in LA. He just can't. Too many lapses in coverage. When you're trying to limit explosives in this defense, he's there to give up explosives. So as much as I like interceptions, I don't like interceptions with the idea that I'm also going to give up 5 touchdowns a year or 8. With the potential of losing a ball hawk like a Cobie Durant, this would replace that loss and be an upgrade and especially size and length. Everything is telling me, though, Nahshon Wright is that guy that is bound to get a GM fired for overpaying him. And there's part of me that thinks that he may have just started scratching the surface at only 27, but it's going to depend on the money for this one. I just have more of a feeling that when it's all said and done, this is going to be a guy that gets overpaid and gets a GM fired. Nothing against him personally, but I would not give him a lot of money. Chidobe Awuzie is next. This is somebody that the Rams really wanted last year, and he chose the Ravens over him, so not really a smart move by him. 4.6 average annual value per OTC. Spotrac has him at 1.3, and so does PFF. So veteran minimum. 6 foot 202, 22 percentile arms. He's going to be 31 years old in May. High IQ veteran. He's going to fit a Super Bowl caliber team. And, I think he creates some stability, if you cut Darius Williams, which I expect them to do. He's a great fit for any zone scheme. And the Rams, like I said, won him last year. Very low cost, slightly above vet minimum is expected. But he's very efficient when he's on the field. 72.9 passer rating in zone coverage. Only gave up 53.7 catch percentage last year. And he typically keeps the touchdown count low. He's only given up 25 since 2017, which sounds like a lot, but since 2017, it only comes out to be a 1.47 per season clip. He's very disciplined. He's only been penalized 24 times in 9 years and only twice the last 2 seasons. He may not be what he once was, but Awuzie is definitely a sound tackler still, and he hovers around that 10% or lower the last 3 seasons in missed tackle percentage rate. So what are his cons? Well, the durability has always been a concern with Awuzie. He's always guaranteed to at least miss a game every year. He's only played all the games in a season once going back to 2019, but he's missed 12 in the last 2 years alone. And he was also on a snap count to end the season, 8 of his last 10 games of the year. So that's cause for concern. Can he withstand a long season? The ball production isn't really there. Only 1 interception since 2022 and only 8 in his career. And the ACL injury definitely has impacted him enough where he doesn't run with the same explosiveness I once saw him run with. The verdict for me is yes. Depending on how things work with your roster, Chidobe Awuzie makes a lot of sense for the Rams. He may have chose the wrong team, but if push came to shove, I would take him back. The bottom line is he's not perfect, and you have to know that. But he'd be a cheap option and upgrade over Darius Williams. You're getting $8 million in cap relief by cutting Darius Williams, and you're getting a guy that might actually be better than Darius Williams for vet minimum. So the veteran presence is back in the building, and you get a guy that genuinely can turn it on when healthy. So Awuzie has a high level IQ. He's super smart, conscientious style. Sean McVay wants on his football team, and an all-in year grabbing Awuzie for a run makes a lot of sense. As long as he's a CB3 or CB4, I don't count on him to be one of the two, head honchos. I just don't see him at that point in his career. Greg Newsome is next. This is a guy that has a big name because a lot of people liked him coming out of Northwestern, and I liked his skill set, but I don't understand why he has such a big name. Newsome is 26 years old in May. He's 6'1", a $190 with 38 percentile arm length. In 2025, he gave up 109 target pass rate and 5 touchdowns, only had 1 interception and 5 penalties. I'm just not blown away by Newsome. He had issues with the Browns, and then with the Jaguars, it didn't look any better. Spotrac thinks somehow he's going to get $9 million per year. I mean, I guess I wouldn't rule it out with some of these, organizations. His average separation is a 2.5, which is above average, but he's got replacement level coverage yards per snap in 2025, and his EPA was plus 9.7, which is below average. Not good at all. I don't really see the hype. I don't get it. I mean, there's lots of versatility. You can play in the slot, outside corner, even in the box. Could be an option in the star role. He's a potential buy low option, could give the Rams flexibility to go bigger and still address the cornerback spot. He's still very young, has crazy physical tools. He's disciplined, only gave up 5 penalties this year. That is a good sign. After giving up a touchdown his first 4 games of the year, I guess this is the one thing to fall back on. He only gave up 1 the rest of the year, but the cons are real. He's dealt with some injuries that may have something to do with his promising start to his career shriveling up. Hasn't been the same player since 2023. Doesn't force any, turnovers. He's athletic, but he still gives up the deep ball, and he gives it up at least one 50-yard catch every season of his career. He's missed a career high 14 tackles and appears to be regressing as a tackler. And he had a chance to go to a new scenery in Jacksonville, and he looked even worse. Unless he's cheap, I feel like we got to be honest here. I like Newsome coming out of the draft, but on his second team, he looked like he was getting even worse. He looks like he may have lost all his confidence. The momentum after his shoulder, hamstring, ankle injuries. Like, here's the deal. While it sounds nice in theory to kick the tires on him, we've said the exact same thing with guys like Jeff Okudah in the past. Big name for the draft. You remember Ohio State, crazy tool set. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Newsome isn't a lost cause, but I'm not so sure he makes any sense for the Rams with one of those former first-round projects that they already have in Emmanuel Forbes residing on the roster. I don't know to this day why the Jags traded away Tyson Campbell for Greg Newsome. That just felt like a huge downgrade at the time and still does. I know Campbell had his own struggles, but Newsome was even worse. He's a big name, but unless the Rams get him on a $2 million for 1 year prove-it deal, I'm out. Then you have Cam Taylor-Britt. Britt, 27 years old in October, 5'11", buck 96, 31.5-inch arms. Spotrac has him at 9.2 average annual value. OTC has him at basically a veteran minimum. This is a replacement level player right now with the hopes of kind of being a reclamation project. I mean, he's got elite physical tools. In 2024 and 2023, he showed some serious ball hawking ability, but the sharp decline is concerning. And there's a strong schematic fit. I've linked him to the Rams before. He's still very young. There's a possibility you're getting a really good cornerback for pennies on the dollar, but there's also a possibility it just doesn't work out. The decline is real. It's concerning, okay? He's allowing, an 88.3, 67.6 target passer rating the 2 seasons before. Now he's giving up a 10 touchdown per game season and a reception percentage of 65%. It's very concerning to say the least. The injury concerns, he's finished on the IR 3 of the last 4 seasons. There's discipline issues. Not only is he being penalized at an alarming rate, but he's also going after coaches. He's been benched. And oh, by the way, he was arrested in the beginning of 2025, serving a 5-day sentence in jail in January for reckless driving without a valid license. He's no longer the plug-and-play player that I thought he'd be, and now with legal trouble mixed with injuries and a public benching, and then the whole saga with the coaches, the lack of maturity is going to really make you think twice before you give this man money to play for your football team. So for a team trying to win a Super Bowl, this doesn't feel like a player that's ready to help lift them up. So for that reason, I'm likely out. I can't believe I'm saying that. I'm normally a big believer in second chances, but if the Rams deem him a fit and go after Cam Taylor-Britt on the cheap, I'm okay with it. But I can't take a look at everything going on and say I want this guy on my football team. I don't think it's the best fit for the Rams. Their reclamation project was Emmanuel Forbes because of his production on the field, not production on the field mixed with immaturity off of it. So I could be a little harsh here, but with the Super Bowl as the only thing on my mind, I mean, I'm sure the Rams' mind as well, I just have a hard time seeing how that makes any sense to get to another level. Next up, we have Martin Emerson Jr. Doesn't have a valuation because he had an Achilles tear in the summer of 2025. He's 6'2", 203 with 96 percentile arm length. He's going to be 26 in September. I think a lot of people kind of forgot about him. He showed elite football, in 2023. He's expected to be ready in 2026, and he's got a great athletic profile, a good ball hawking ability and ball skills. He's going to be cost effective as well, coming off a torn Achilles. I think it's worth noting he's had over 200 tackles in 3 years, and 158 of them have been solo. So it shows the willingness and desire to actually wrap up. And he's a very smart football player that works well in zone coverage, and I think he'd be a natural fit in Shula's defense. That said, he was showing decline before the Achilles tear in 2025, so I don't know what that looks like. Achilles recovery is also a huge con because the Rams didn't have great luck bringing back Trey White either. So he doesn't have the long speed, recovery speed. That could be an issue. And he had 24 penalties in 3 years, and that's a bit of an issue for me. But my verdict is yes. I think you bring him in. Doesn't need to be a CB2, but you're looking at CB3, CB4, even CB5. He's coming off an Achilles tear. It's probably going to be a 1 year. If you could get it a 2 year, that'd be cool. But I'm doing it on a cheap deal. See what he can do in camp. See if he can be, a big nickel or rotational piece and see what happens there. But I think that there's definitely room to put him on the roster. And then we have Alontae Taylor from the Saints, 28 years of age, 6 foot, $199, 32 and a quarter inch arms at 78 percentile, league average EPA, below average separation yards, and replacement level coverage yards per snap. This is a player that has a lot of versatility. If you want a player that could theoretically take over the star role, if you wanted to free up Quentin Lake and put him at safety full time, Alontae Taylor could do that. He started all 17 games each of the last 3 seasons. He's been available, one of the most available on the market, elite athlete, 40 time was in the 92nd percentile, 78 percentile arm length, like I said, an 83 percentile broad jump. Obvious ball skills for this guy. I mean, he's got 32 pass breakups in 4 years, but he only has 4 picks in that span. He has 100 blitz opportunities that have come his way, and he's had 8 sacks and 20 pressures in doing so. So a defensive coordinator could really have a chess piece here and really be able to strategically utilize him. He's a really smart football player, well-renowned there, and doesn't really get penalized. He's very disciplined on that front. But the issues for me when it comes to Alontae Taylor, that first off, he's available, so that's good, but his price tag is going to be really high. And while that's all fun and good that, he can be a rotational piece and all that, he could be a fun chess piece, he has an 18% missed tackle rate in his career, nearly 3,000 yards given up in coverage, and 20 touchdowns allowed, as mentioned, as well as 1,300 plus yak yardage. So he's a playmaker, but he also gives up big plays himself, which cancels out the good he does. And so he's likely to get paid, and I don't see why he can't get paid. But at the same time, I don't know if I want to pay him, and I don't know if he's that much better than Josh Wallace to justify paying him exponentially more than Josh Wallace. So for that reason, it's a no for me. I like the concept of adding Taylor the player, but I don't see how it makes any sense considering the price tag is probably going to be a little too much for the Rams. You already have Quentin Lake and Josh Wallace. I'm not saying, Alontae Taylor would be useless, in a dime package role or whatever, but the price, I think it would be a mistake. You just can't trust him on the outside. And, while he shows, fun physicality and all of that, he also shows that he can get blown up on big plays. And this is a defense trying to eliminate those big plays and limit them. So I'm out on that. Jack Jones is another player here from the Dolphins. He's been kicked off 2 football teams. Okay. 29 years of age. Not the best season he's coming off of, with 9 penalties, giving up 6 touchdowns, 112.7 target passer rating. I mean, he's dynamic with the ball in his hand. He's picked off 8 passes and he's taken 4 of them back for 6. But, as physical as he is, despite the fact, he's only 177 pounds, he has 175 tackles in his career. After his career slide, his value could actually be pretty decent as far as kicking the tires. And he's great at mirroring and coverage, and the skill set is there. And while I have questions about the zone fit, he was tied for 6th in zone target passer rating, but there's a lot to unpack here with Jack Jones. I don't believe he's a fit for the Rams defense at all, not even a little bit. And he's had some off the field issues for starters. I mean, predominantly a man coverage corner, and he likes to play gamble. He likes to roulette. I don't like that. Too many penalties, 24, 22 of them came in the last 3 years. He has a history that includes arrests, suspensions, rifts with staff members. He's been released by 2 teams because of this. No. While I hope Jack Jones figures it out, because I really don't root against players, I like a good redemption story. I just don't believe his redemption story fits with the Rams. 16 touchdowns given up over the last 2 seasons is an absolute nightmare feeling for a team that's trying to upgrade cornerback right now. So in addition to the penalties, the off-the-field stuff that concerns me, to top it off, he doesn't fit the scheme. I'm out on Jack Jones, period. Next up, we have James Pierre from the Steelers, 30 years old in September. Not really sure what his market value is going to be. He was a high-end starter when playing, but he hasn't really gotten a huge opportunity to play. And that's the interesting thing. A 57.2 target pass rating, only 1 touchdown, interception, 0 penalties. 6'2", buck 85, 42 percentile arms. Like, he looked like an elite cornerback in a small sample size of only 255 coverage snaps. Like, the ball production on full display, 9 pass breakups in that limited sample size. He's got the great athletic profile at 6'2". He had a really fun year, but the lack of sample size and his age, being that, he's going to be 30, could really have Pierre fall under the radar, which also could work out for the Rams and be incredible value, right then and there. He's shown the ability to play in man and zone coverage, and PFF gave him an elite coverage grade this year, and he's really disciplined, only 7 penalties in over 1,300 snaps. Now, the cons are before 2025, Pierre was just a special teamer and didn't really play, and when he did play, he didn't really play at this level. He had an amazing 2025 season, but he was also bothered by a calf injury. He did come back from it, but it's something to monitor. And he's going to be 30, entering his 7th season, which, limits his long-term ceiling. I think him struggling in run support is also a concern, 16.2% missed tackle rate. And again, the small sample size. Would I bring him in? Sure. If the price is right, I think Pierre could help the special teams and help out the cornerback room. He had the 16th overall special teams grade in 2024. I think it's worth going after him as an addition to the cornerback room, not with any expectation he's going to start or take a giant role, but let him work for a bigger role in camp. But the special teams aspect alone makes me want it. And next up, we have Asante Samuel Jr. I'll be quick with this one because, look, I wouldn't be against the ad of Asante Samuel Jr. But to be honest, I don't know how it makes a whole lot of sense. He's not good enough in the run game. He's actually a net negative. And to leave him out there, he can't really be a number 2 because of that. And then, there's going to be a team that does want to try him at number 2, so I don't think the Rams can necessarily compete. And it's like, I just worry about the neck injury, which he came back from, but I mean, the spinal cord fusion, like, it's just, I don't love it. So I hope to God he stays healthy. I like the player, but he tends to gamble a lot. He still gave up 2 touchdowns and limited opportunities. Like, there were times where he looked really good, especially in zone coverage. He'd be an obvious scheme fit from a coverage standpoint, and he's very disciplined. Like, he doesn't get penalized a ton, only 14 in 5 years. But the neck injury, and I just have issues in the run game. So much so, I think I would say that I'm probably out on him unless he's very cheap. And then Rasul Douglas comes in next from the Dolphins, coming off a resurgent season after looking like he was about to fall off a cliff. 13.7 average annual value per OTC. Spotrac has him at $4 million, and PFF has him at 6.5. I mean, he's 6'2", 209, 81 percentile inch arms. I mean, look, I like him. I've wanted him for a while, but I prefer Ahkello Witherspoon over him. Really, when Rasul is just not leaps and bounds above Ahkello, and then he's expected to garner double-digit AAV, whereas Ahkello would be like a vet minimum type of deal. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. I mean, he's going to be on the pricier side. He started to show some decline in 2024. I mean, we're talking in the tune of 127.7 target passer rating, 9 penalties, 76.9 reception percentage. If he does fall off, that's what you're looking at. But there's a lot to like. Like, he's very efficient. And he's an obvious zone fit, 61 passer rating, targeted in zone, sound tackler, showed some flash as a blitzer, a bit of a plug-and-play number 2 if they lose Ahkello Witherspoon. And he's had very minimal key injuries. But, yeah, I think I would bring him in, but if they lose Ahkello Witherspoon and I want a specialist that can take on a big-bodied receiver in a certain game, that to me is what Rasul Douglas is for. And that's what I would say there. Next up, we have Benjamin St-Juste, 4.9 AAV per over the cap, 29 later this year. He's 6'3", 205 with 87 percentile inch arms. He's got a 64 target passer rating, touchdown allowed, interception, and 2 penalties. This is a guy who had a league average EPA this year, above average separation, and a replacement level coverage yards per snap. What I like about him is that he's got elite boundary size. He has really improved in a situational role for the Chargers, showing that maybe that's what he needs, and he just isn't a starter, as Washington showed you. He was excellent in zone coverage, had a target passer rating that was 5th in the league, and he had the highest zone coverage grade according to PFF. I think St-Juste can really tackle. This is a guy that was 6th in the tackling grade according to PFF, only 1 missed tackle this year. The last 2 years have been below 10% missed tackle rate, and he was 11th overall zone corner according to PFF. The financial risk is going to be low on him too. I mean, $5 million AAV at most. He logged 2 starts this year. Like, he doesn't have a great resume because of the struggling. That could keep his value down. And he went from 20 penalties in 2 years to only 2 this year. He also has familiarity with Cam Curl, who could be brought back, and Emmanuel Forbes. So he would have that to be able to work with them. The small sample size is a bit of a concern. And he's quick, but doesn't have the long speed to really carry down the field. So I don't know if I want him starting. He's also been labeled a penalty machine. As good as he was this year, he did have 20 penalties in 2 years. So what I would say is this. Yes, I would bring in Benjamin St-Juste, but not as a CB1 or CB2 or maybe even a CB3. He reminds me of a zone corner that can really tackle in Michael Davis, if you remember him from the Chargers as well. Like Davis, I can't count on St-Juste in a starting role, but in a limited depth role, I can see a lot of value here to bolster a secondary. There's some things to really like about St-Juste in zone coverage. He clearly thrives, and I just don't want to overdo it giving him too many snaps. And I think the way the Chargers utilized him might be the best way to maximize his value. So those are my thoughts there. And before we wrap it up here on the free agent corners, because then we'll get into the Rams corners, Joshua Williams. I mean, this is a guy who looked like he was coming on strong here, coming out of Fayetteville State. I mean, he's barely played recently. And to me, this is a guy you give him an offseason to work with your coaching staff and see if by the end of preseason you found a gem or not. This is going to be a 1-year prove-it deal type of player. You're going to need to quickly find out. I don't love projects, especially when you already have Forbes, as I've said over and over and over again. But Williams offers length and size that the Rams don't currently have on the roster now that the season's over. He also showcased that he was pretty darn good in coverage, and maybe, just maybe, the Chiefs had that much talent where he just got lost in the fold. Fantastic boundary profile at 6'3", $193, and a 91 percentile inch arms. This is championship experienced cornerback that had a huge rookie year performance in the AFC title game, came away with an interception, only allowed a 9.2 passer rating on 47 coverage snaps. The coverage ceiling is even better, and I think you see that. He's only allowed a 57.5 reception percentage and 113 targets, and he's only given up 3 touchdowns in his last 600 coverage snaps. But the problem is he only had 10 coverage snaps in 2025, not due to injury, not because he was benched. It was because of the addition of Christian Fulton and the emergence of Noel Williams, and also having Trent McDuffie and, of course, Jaylen Watson. So Joshua Williams will be a 1-year prove-it deal type of player. And I think there's a lot of reason to give him a shot. And I think the Rams could definitely do that. He could end up being a gem, but at the same time, the lack of recent film And you also had Noel Williams, who's younger, and they're basically telling you he's further along in the development. He's not a burner, and the role decrease. I mean, maybe the Chiefs realize he's just not going to be that much higher as far as ceiling goes, and that's why they just cut their losses. I don't know, but anyway, those are the free agents that I'm going to talk about. I have other cornerbacks as well. Trayvon Diggs, we're not doing a full thing on. I think he's done. I think the ACL robbed him of his athleticism. I watched his Packers tape and his last few Cowboys games, and he literally allowed almost a perfect passer rating this year and played is way too big of a cushion. Like, when I was watching the Packers film, he just didn't move particularly well. So I hate it for him because I hate injuries affecting players, but I don't think it works. And then Kader Kohou, if the Rams aren't able to bring back Roger McCreary, this is a slot specialist that could be a really fun weapon to a Chris Shula defense. It's worth mentioning he missed all of 2025, but the East Texas A&M UDFA is one of the best undrafted stories in a while. And to be honest with you, I didn't know that was a school until he broke on the scene, but this would be a great dime package player and even nickel in some cases, maybe even, in the star. Kader Kohou from the Dolphins is somebody that I'm looking at. And then AJ Green, also from the Dolphins. Rams really liked him. The Dolphins add him for the practice squad. Would not be shocked to see him back. They really liked him. So now we'll get into the Rams free agents. When it comes to Ahkello Witherspoon, look, I understand there's a lot of talk about him. What I want to make very clear is that if he's on the vet minimum and you're getting a 6'3", 200-plus pound player with a 93 percentile inch arms and a guy that really only gives up less than 3 touchdowns a season and gets nearly 6 PBUs a season and only has 3 penalties and only gives up 56 reception percentage per year, that's a pretty damn good player. Now, he's going to be 31 years old this year, okay? But he's a young 31. Keep in mind, he didn't play a ton with the 49ers, like early on. So he still is somewhat green in the sense that he's not like your 31-year-old that played every single snap for his career. The veteran presence is there. He's, given the Rams stability when they needed it, and they've missed him dearly when he's been out. He's a matchup eliminator. He can, basically be put on a big-bodied receiver and just do his job. The veteran leadership is definitely there. He's been dubbed as Yoda of the secondary, and he's been known to mentor younger players on the roster. He's been getting essentially the Rams out of jail. He's been their get out of jail free card for 3 years in a row. Mainly 2 years, because this year he got hurt, but he's made some huge plays in big games, including shutting down A.J. Brown, the Eagles' playoff game, a strip sack off a blitz against the Vikings in the playoff game, and let's not forget NFL Analytics calling it the most impactful play of the entire 2024 season, the interception that sent the Rams back to the playoffs in 2024. He's a workhorse. He's going to be ready to go and keep himself in shape despite being 31. When he's on, he can be as good as anybody. And he knows the defense and familiarity. It's going to make him a great scheme fit no matter what. And he's also very disciplined and very rarely commits penalties because he trusts his technique. What are the cons? Well, he just broke his scapula twice and missed more than half the season. The first time the injuries really got to him in his Rams career. He was scrutinized by the Rams staff for the missed tackle against the Panthers on the boundary. He's at the age at this position where players start to decline and lose their speed, and Ahkello needs that speed. He didn't have a great year statistically, mainly due to the injury and barely playing, and the Rams' thirst for more ball production, which I think is evident, could deem Witherspoon's 2 interceptions the last 2 years not enough for them. So, of course, I bring him back. That's my verdict on the vet minimum. Let him compete, stay in camp. I think he can still play at a high level. And I think the Rams will really consider this, regardless of how cost-effective the deal is, because, Ahkello loves LA. The coaches and teammates love him. There's zero risk. He doesn't have to be announced a starter, but, you give him a chance to earn his role in camp. And, with it's a stronger cornerback room. So iron sharpens iron. I think Ahkello makes the Rams a better team, whether he's CB2, CB3, CB4. Having him in that room makes them better. If Aubrey Pleasant leaves for either the Raiders or Browns job, be on the lookout. I wouldn't be surprised to see Ahkello follow him there. But I think they should definitely consider bringing him back. And I think all three of these guys should be considered brought back, as well as Cobie Durant. I've changed my stance on Cobie Durant after really going through all of these corners. I want to be fair to him here, okay? 7.8 average annual value per OTC. That might be a little high for me. 5'11", a $180, 26 percentile inch arms. He's going to be 28 years old. Or no, he is 28 years old. So his career for a season, he's given up less than 3 touchdowns, 4 pass breakups, less than 2 penalties a season. He gives up more reception percentage than Ahkello, but less targeted passer rating. Very, very durable. Okay, this guy played all 19 games this last year. And only missed 3 games since 2023. 20 games. So that's something to keep in mind. He played all 20 games this year. He's got ball hawking instincts. It's why he's called the land shark. Matched career high 3 interceptions in the regular season and then added 3 in the playoffs. He's got inside-outside versatility. So not only does he fit as potentially a number 2 that can play off a shutdown corner, but he can also work at nickel. And he can also work in a dime package. So that's something to keep in mind. He's flashed absolute brilliance at times. He's had some huge games. And he's really improved as a tackler, going from an ankle biter, 19 percentile missed tackle rate in his rookie season, down to 10.9%. He's very disciplined and only 7 penalties in his career. And we know he fits Chris Shula's defense well. He's not a number 1, but perhaps he could work as a number 2 with an elite number 1. Here are the cons, though. He's not a number 1 corner. He has flashes of brilliance, but he has too many lapses in coverage. He allows way too much separation, over 3 yards per average separation, which is not great. And while he's an improved tackler, he's still an ankle biter at heart. Now, he doesn't do it as much, but he still does it enough to make you think about it. He struggled against top passing attacks this year. You look at the Lions game, you look at the 49ers game, shows that. The physical limitations can really be exposed, including his height and overall arm length. We showed that, basically saw that in the NFC title game at the end with Cooper Kupp. And he could cost a pretty penny due to his ball hawking ability. Like, this league pays guys that pick the football off. Case in point, Byron Murphy. Was he worth $20 million? Probably not. Teams like to pay guys that force interceptions. So, look, I've been very adamant that Durant wasn't cutting it, but I also do think he's pretty solid. And I think I was a little hard on it. That said, would he be my first choice to bring back and pay the land shark free agency money? No. But on the cheap, I would definitely not hate bringing him back into the fold. And he can't be your number 1, but quite honestly, I don't really want him to be the number 2 either. But in number 3, it's really not that bad. And it kind of seems dumb when you know this guy knows the defense so well. He's like graduated from this Shula, Raheem Morris, Fangio style defense. Kind of seems dumb if he's cheap enough why you wouldn't bring him back just to not bring him back. So yeah, Roger McCreary, last but certainly not least here, $2.3 million average annual value per OTC, 26 years old, 5'11", a $191. He's got a 0 percentile arm length, which is hilarious. 28 and 7/8. That is very small. Very short arms. But anyway, he's only given up 11 touchdowns and nearly 2,000 coverage snaps, and 7 of those were in his rookie year. He's got elite slot potential. He has inside-outside versatility. He played 51 snaps on the outside for the Rams, 33 in the slot, and 22 in the box. Shula called him a Ram, like he fits what they look for in Rams. Toughness, smart, and ability to pick up a complex defensive system quickly. With his trade, okay, and the injury, there wasn't a lot of time for him to build much of a resume in a contract year, and that could lead to him being very affordable for the Rams. They went out of their way to trade for this guy, speaking of the Rams, at the deadline. That tells me the Rams, they know that they wanted him for a reason. So there is definitely a desire there. He's only 26. He could help now and the future, so if they choose. And he's a pretty stout run defender despite his size. He can be utilized as a blitzer. The cons are that he has a limited sample size. So the Rams, do they want to invest money in him when they barely know who he is? After 6 games, you just don't really know. There's not a ton of opportunities there. He didn't have the best recovery speed from what I saw and was exploited because of that at times back with Tennessee. We didn't really see that with the Rams, though. There's a chance a team pays him a lot just based on the tools and the Rams get priced out. But I would 100% love to bring him back. I would love to have McCreary. I think the Rams had a vision for him, and I won't be shocked if they choose to execute that. He's a nickel corner, but he has the versatility. Even in limited opportunity he showed, he can be Johnny on the spot. If the Rams envision McCreary to be a go-to CB3 in their dime package and injuries derailed him, it won't surprise me. It's worth mentioning he played all his outside cornerback snaps in the postseason and gave up only 2 catches for 14 yards. That is over 50 snaps in the postseason when it mattered the most, and he only gave up 2 catches for 14 yards. Bring him back, get him back in the lab, and let him work. I liked the deal at the time, trading for him, and I think they need to follow through and give him a 2-year deal. So those are my thoughts. For draft options, Mansour Deline from LSU, Jermond McCoy, Tennessee, Avion Terrell, Clemson, Colton Hood, Tennessee, Brandon Cisse, South Carolina, big fan of him, Chris Johnson, San Diego State, Keith Abney II, Arizona State, D'Angelo Pons, Indiana, Keno Scott, Miami, Malik Muhammad, Texas, Julian Neal, Arkansas, Devin Moore, Florida, Chandler Rivers, Duke, Dalen Everett, Georgia, Xavier Scott, Illinois, Will Lead III, Texas A&M, Tarkario Davis, Washington, Davison Igbinosin, Ohio State, and Jermaine Matthews Jr., Ohio State. Those are 2 guys to keep an eye on because they both, by the way, are, of course, they were coached by new coach Michael Hunter, who just joined the Rams coaching staff as a DB's coach. So that's something to keep in mind. But what would I do? I would definitely draft at least 1 corner in this draft. But what would my free agency look? I'm going to tell you. Number 1, Jamel Dean. He's going to be my CB1. He's the only CB1 on the market. While the injuries are a concern, you just have to bite the bullet for what he is as a player. A perfect zone fit for your defense and arguably the best tackling zone corner in the NFL. The other options at CB1, if he's not available, well, Delane, Jaylen Watson, and Eric Stokes. Those are my guys. That's who I want at CB1. CB2, Montaric Brown. Another fits like a glove fit for Shula, thrives in zone coverage, and he tackles. The other options, Jaylen Watson, Josh Jobe, Eric Stokes, CorDale Flott, and Cobie Durant. I think those are some good options. CB3/dime, I'm going to go with Roger McCreary. I think people may disagree with this one. I think it's kind of a no-brainer. You saw what he could do in a limited sample size. Let's be honest, lesser talented defense than what he should have next year, in my opinion. I say run it back with him on a 2-year deal and let him be that nickel in your dime package. And then CB4, I'm going to also say Ahkello Witherspoon. People are going to disagree with this. I don't see why. You add the size, the speed combination back onto the roster, leadership, familiarity within the system for pennies on the dollar. It's a no-brainer. Ahkello as CB4 should have no one complaining because you're getting a legitimate plug-and-play starter as your backup. The injuries sucked, but he should be back and ready to contribute. And CB5, call me crazy, Emmanuel Forbes. I don't think you should pick up his 5th-year option. I like Forbes a lot. I was a big fan of going after him, and he gets me excited. But at the same time, I don't think Forbes is ready to be the guy. We need some time. I'm not about to shell out all the money that I need next season because I have to commit to that now. You have to essentially commit to his 5th-year option right now. I don't know if I'm trying to do that. So let him try to earn a spot on this roster. Sometimes things work out. Maybe he outshines Montaric Brown. Maybe he takes over for Jamel Dean due to injury. Hopefully not. Either way, there's no sense in getting rid of him. As far as other corners, whoever they draft, whoever's, Alex Johnson, Cam Lampkin, those guys getting an opportunity maybe to earn a spot, sure. But I'm curious, what combination would you have the Rams cornerback room look like? This has been almost a movie-long video, but I wanted to give you the most successful breakdown possible of the cornerback room. And hopefully I did a good job of it. So please let me know in the comment section below. Don't worry. We were just glossing over the draft, but the draft is going to have, there's going to be a lot of stuff when it comes to for the draft. So keep that in mind. I'll see you guys in the next video. Check out today's sponsor, Sleeper, and I'll see you guys soon. Later, folks.